Ever get that feeling?
Yeah.
Like you hear about some historical period, but it feels distant,
Oh,
untouchable.
yeah. I get that.
Today, we're going deep into a time and place that's often romanticized. But
Okay.
we're going to strip away that romanticization. We're diving headfirst into the gritty underbelly of 1980s and 90s New York City. The East Village, to be exact.
Wow, sounds
It
intense.
was
Yeah.
an absolute pressure cooker of art and music and social change,
Yeah.
but also rampant drug use, poverty, and violence.
Right.
And our guide for this journey is Michael Klein and his memoir, New York City Junky Days.
I've heard of that book.
Yeah, it's pretty raw. No holds barred account of his life in the East Village during that time. He doesn't shy away from the dark side, the heroin addiction, the crime, the whole 9 yards.
You were getting the unfiltered truth?
Exactly. We're going to pull excerpts from his book, particularly the parts where he talks about his early experiences with heroin, how he got started, the people he met, the places he went, and what it was really like to be caught in the grip of addiction in that environment.
This is going to be heavy stuff.
It is. But it's important. And it's powerful. So buckle up. We're going deep. All right. Klein starts his memoir with his first heroin purchase.
Okay.
And he talks about this, well, almost bizarre feeling of accomplishment he had afterwards.
It's like pride.
Yeah, like he'd just been accepted into some exclusive club.
Wow. The big boys club, he calls it.
Exactly. Like he'd finally arrived.
Sad, though, isn't it? Because he's talking about buying heroin.
Right. I mean, it's just baffling to think that scoring drugs could be perceived as some sort of achievement.
Well, yeah, but I guess it speaks to that underlying desire we all have. To belong, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
I guess. But it's a dangerous path to choose.
Definitely. And Klein himself acknowledges that years later, after he got sober.
Oh, yeah. What'd he say?
He called it the biggest mistake of his life.
After 23 years of sobriety, that really puts it into perspective.
Yeah, it does. It's a stark reminder that addiction isn't a glamorous club to join. It's a long, hard road with potentially devastating consequences. Absolutely.
Right.
And one thing Klein stresses over and over again is that no one ever thinks they're going to get addicted.
Right. They think they can control it. Just dabble a bit.
But as Klein says, there's no such thing as a casual heroin user.
It's just too powerful.
Yeah. Once it grabs hold of you, it's incredibly difficult to break free.
Heroin is just, it's a whole different beast. And this is all happening in a very specific place. Klein even names the exact corner where he first bought heroin.
Oh, really? Where was it?
East 7th and Avenue B, right by Tompkins Square Park.
Oh, wow. Alphabet City. I've heard stories about that area back then.
It was rough. Klein describes it as a war zone.
Lots of abandoned buildings.
Yeah. And further east, the housing projects loomed. You know those giant concrete towers? It creates this almost apocalyptic backdrop for his story.
Yeah, I get it. Like, the physical environment itself is mirroring the internal chaos he's about to experience.
Exactly. So Klein heads to this building, everyone, called Laundromat.
Was it an actual laundromat?
Nope. Just a regular residential building.
Yeah.
But that's where the dealers operated.
Right. And he describes this almost surreal scene.
Like what?
There's this line of about 15 people just waiting to buy, like it's the most normal thing in the world.
It's another day in the East Village.
Yeah, and the dealer's just standing on the stoop, wearing a waiter's apron.
A waiter's apron, really?
That's what Klein says. Taking money with one hand and handing over drugs with the other.
Wow. Talk about a juxtaposition.
Right. And he points out that the people in line were all sorts. Some looked like they had money. Others looked completely beaten down, like they've been through hell and back.
It just goes to show that addiction doesn't discriminate.
Absolutely. And so Klein's standing in this line, and he gets his first lesson in street smarts. The unofficial rules of copping.
Copy?
Yeah, buying drugs. First rule, the aguagato system.
Sounds like a code.
It was. Agua meant cops were nearby.
And gotta.
All clear. No cops in sight.
So like a warning system, keeping everyone safe.
Exactly. And then the second rule, no singles, no fives.
Meaning?
So you had to pay with tens or larger bills, streamline the transactions, less time standing around, less chance of getting caught.
Makes sense. Efficiency is key in that world.
Absolutely. So Klein finally gets to the front of the line, and he says to the dealer, 1D, please.
Just like that.
Just like that. And afterwards, he walks away feeling like a total outlaw.
That feeling of rebellion.
He even passes a cop in Tompkins Square Park and feels like a badass.
Oh, man. The delusion is strong.
He had no idea what he was getting himself into. Okay, now Klein also talks about another East Village institution, the Holiday Cocktail Lounge,
Yep. Bar.
the quintessential dive bar. Klein says it was pretty unfriendly.
Oh, yeah. Unfriendly in what way?
Well, it wasn't exactly known for its warm and fuzzy atmosphere, more like a "you're lucky we let you in here" kind of vibe.
Sounds charming.
But it had its draws. Strong drinks, like really strong.
Okay, how strong are we talking?
4.5 shots per drink. Yeah, and super cheap, $2.75 for a mixed drink.
Okay, that is cheap, even for back then.
Right. So you can see why it was popular, especially with students.
No, you kids, I bet.
You got it. They'd flock there on the weekends.
Even if the staff was rude.
Klein says they were willing to put up with some mild abuse for those prices.
I can see that.
And then there's Steve,
Who's Steve?
the bartender, legendary figure in the East Village. Klein describes him as incredibly territorial, like he owned the place.
That bartender vibe.
And he had this uncanny ability to free pour the exact right amount of alcohol every time. Never used a jigger.
That's a skill.
But God forbid you told him his drinks were too strong.
Oh,
Klein tells this story about a guy who made that mistake.
what happened?
Steve just dumped the drink out, yelled at the guy, and told him to get out.
No refunds.
No refunds, no apologies. That was Steve.
Sounds intense. What about the money? Did they use those newfangled credit card things?
Not even close. Old school cash register. The kind with the big lever you pull.
I haven't seen one of those in ages.
And the way Steve handled change was something else.
Like how?
Sometimes he'd shortchange you, sometimes he'd give you too much, but the regulars never complained.
Why not?
They just figured it all evened out in the end. It was part of the whole chaotic ecosystem of the place.
I get it, you gotta pick your battles.
Exactly. And don't even think about asking for anything on tap.
Why? What was the deal with that?
Bottles only, Budweiser or Heineken, take it or leave it.
Oh, craft brews.
This is the 80s and 90s. Craft beer wasn't really a thing yet.
True. So people actually asked for tap beer.
Klein says the regulars would get a kick out of it. Newbies walking in all innocent. "Can I get a beer on tap?" Steve or one of his sons would unleash a torrent of sarcasm and grumbling.
Like a hazing ritual.
Pretty much. But hey, at least the drinks were strong and cheap.
Right. And when did this magical establishment open its doors?
Whenever Steve woke up.
You're kidding?
Nope. Klein says it could be anywhere between 10 and 11 a.m.
Talk about keeping things unpredictable.
And apparently, the local morning drinking drunks, as Klein calls them, would sometimes try to wake Steve up if he was running late.
Wow. So it was kind of a community effort to get the bar open.
In a way, yeah. Now, the weekends were a different story. Strict 1 a.m. closing time. No exceptions.
That's early.
It was Steve's sons. Apparently, they hated dealing with drunk people late at night.
I can respect that.
And they had this whole routine for last call. Lights would flicker, jukebox would shut off
I don't know
abruptly,
if that'll get people moving.
and everyone would stumble out into the night. Now, Klein's memoir isn't all about bars and buying heroin. He also paints a very vivid picture of street life in the East Village. The constant sense of danger, the feeling that something bad could happen at any moment.
That's scary.
Yeah. He talks about walking down Avenue B one day, and he runs into this guy.
Just a random guy.
Well, they got to talking, and it turned out the guy was also addicted to heroin, just another addict trying to survive.
It really puts into perspective how widespread the problem was back then.
Definitely. And then Klein describes this really unsettling encounter he had with a group of kids.
Kids. Like little kids.
Yeah, they're playing kick the can, Latino kids. And as Klein walks by, they yell out, "Hey, mister, you dropped your heroin needle."
Oh, my God.
It's a little sarcastic, but it's just chilling. These kids were so young, but they already knew the realities of their neighborhood. The drugs, the addiction, the danger.
Yeah, it's like their innocence had been stolen.
Absolutely. And then Klein and his friend walked down to the Lower East Side.
Oh, wow. That's even rougher than the East Village.
Yeah. They're on Clinton Street, then Stanton Street.
Yeah.
And Klein describes this palpable feeling of dread, like something bad was about to happen.
Like they were walking into a trap.
And then it starts. First, an empty beer bottle smashes at their feet.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. They don't know if it was intentional or just some random act of stupidity, but it definitely rattles them.
I bet.
And then things escalate. As they're walking down the street, suddenly there's this barrage of firecrackers and bottle rockets coming at them from a nearby rooftop.
Someone was shooting at them.
Klein says it felt like they were in a war zone. They had to run for cover.
It's insane.
It is. And what's really striking is that Klein acknowledges these were warning signs. These things were happening for a reason.
Like a wake-up call.
Exactly. But he says he ignored them because the need for heroin was just too strong. It had completely taken over his life.
It's like he was trapped in a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Michael Klein's New York City Junky Days, I think it's clear that he gives us an incredibly raw and honest look at a very specific time and place.
Definitely. It's a world that's often romanticized, but Klein doesn't sugarcoat anything.
He shows us the stark realities of addiction, the poverty, the violence, the constant struggle for survival.
And he does it in a way that's both heartbreaking and thought-provoking.
It really makes you think about the choices we make, how our environment shapes us, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope for change. Klein's own journey to sobriety is proof of that.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about Michael Klein and his experiences, you can find his books, New York City Junky Days and My Adventures in Tuva at lulu.com.
Both fascinating reads.
They offer a unique and unforgettable glimpse into a world that's both compelling and deeply unsettling.
A world that's worth understanding, even if it's hard to